Hello, I'm OG, and welcome to Speaking of Everything. I have a very interesting guest. Always been here in the program. He's back again. He's the president of the Collectivity of Friends St. Martin, President Mussington. How you doing, sir?
I'm great, and it's a pleasure again to be here with you at the beginning of the new year 2026 to share my views, my concerns for the country, and if time permits us, we can go into my program for coming up, given the fact that in 2027 we'll be having elections for the post of presidency of the collectivity for the next 5 years. So March 22nd, 2027 would be new elections on St. Martin. So we can talk about all that, but you're the host. I'm here at your guest to answer any question that is posed to me.
We have to have you here, and we'll talk about all the things that time permits us to. So, again, time goes so fast, Mr. President. I mean, it's like yesterday it was election.
Yes. Well, it's a 5-year how should I say, agenda. So, and that's what I said too, and to say this as we speak, because time going so fast, 5 years is not sufficient to complete a clear mandate with an investment program and different social, cultural and educational things that you would like to do for your country. Definitely 5 years as a mandate period of time is not sufficient at all. So we have to be taking that into account, and that's why I keep saying to the people, whatever isn't accomplished during the first mandate, trust me, it will be accomplished during my second mandate.
Now, air and utilities is on everyone's mind.
Sure. So
I guess you lose a lot of sleep over that, right?
Let me put it this way. It's a difficult task, okay? It was never our intention, because if you look at our program, managing the airline was never part of the program. But circumstances dictated a situation where in interest of the people, you had to get involved for different reasons. One is that you have to guarantee that your people would be in a position where they could travel frequently from Guadeloupe to Martinique, and come back, and back, yes. Because there's a lot of people, everyone might not be aware of this, that for health reasons, these frequent transfer become part of their way of life on St. Martin. So when the airline went down, ART collapsed and went into bankruptcy, we felt it was an opportunity to step in to make sure that we kill the whole monopoly situation where Air Caraïbes would take over and will take prices to a level where unreachable for the common man who have the means of buying a ticket between 300 and 500 euros, yet he must travel on a frequent basis to Guadeloupe, to Martinique, and back. And the most critical aspect is that he does not benefit from Social Security because he did not contribute into the system. And yet, so he have to go to his pockets to find the money to do that. So we felt that if we can come up with this idea, and we come up with the idea to get involved in the airline, it will permit us to send our people frequently. And then too, you want to make sure that the economic aspect of things be maintained, because our people travel for, like I said, health reason, but they also travel for economic reason and administration. Right. Okay, even though we are no longer part of Guadeloupe, but there's still some administrative and judiciary or legal procedures that still take place in Guadeloupe. So again, this explains why some of us frequently travel to Guadeloupe and Martinique. So you want to make sure that they can do that at an affordable cost. And above that, from an economic perspective, I'm looking at owning that airline based on the fact that you want to develop Grand Cas Airport. For the last, 20, 30 years, all you'll have is 2 flights out of Guadeloupe, one some of the time, and then there's not a business, one airline. So my idea is to create business around the Grand Cas Airport, where you will have other companies coming in, but you will also want to increase the flights where ART, which is a St. Martin airline, would go not just to the French destinations, but also would do other Caribbean islands. And that is the goal that I set out as a vision that I share for this country. But unfortunately, there's some mistakes in management at the early stage. Some people who are there for their pocket and not for the general interest, but you learn of that at a later stage. So we're at a stage right now where the court has granted another 6 months, and I know those who was, how should I say, hoping that they would pronounce on the liquidation process. In other words, file bankruptcy and leave it at that. But I think good sense and good judgment prevail, and therefore the judge approved another 6 months dealings, or at least time to adjust, make the necessary adjustments, but most importantly, find the right investors who will put the additional money needed to keep the company up and running, and to guarantee, like I said, the economic stability and permit our people to continue to travel frequently at an affordable cost.
The opposition don't agree with all the things you've done with this airline. In fact, I had Charvel here, and he was very critical, always been critical about it.
Yes.
Made some very valid points in terms of government getting involved in aviation and so forth without the experience and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about it? Because you're president of the collectivity. Normally, governments are the last resort to get in to save a company.
And that's it. We stepped in.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, we stepped in exactly at that moment because bankruptcy file was on the desk of the president of the court, the judge, and that's when we stepped in and made an offer, which was a valid offer that he accepted. So that's when from there on, we took over the company. But like I just indicated, there was some, I would say mismanagement or incompetence in terms of managing an airline. And that's why we had to be injecting capital funds however often. That's why today, and quite realistically, we had to, not hiding the reality from our people, we have invested $19 million thus far in the company.
He said $90 million is lost.
Excuse me?
Charlotte said that $90 million, that's lost.
That's his interpretation. But the reason why, once we get a new partner in the business, because the partner with whom we were working before, he chose to abandon and did not live up to expectation. Okay?
Yeah.
And because even in the future, we could file a court case against him because he's 40% in the business. It's two partners. But that's a subject that we could deal with in the future. What our priorities are today is to secure another 15 to 20 million. If we can settle for 15, we'll be comfortable. And it was our hope that the General and Regional Council of Guadeloupe were also stepping in, which in the early indications, they were prepared to do that. But for some reason, up to this point in time, they haven't come clearly and say, yes, we are willing to bear the burden with you, given the fact that 90% of the staff of RRT are based in Guadeloupe.
No,
we're trying to remedy that situation, firstly by restructuring the company, by making sure secure the 15 million that is needed urgently, and from there, we will make all the adjustments needed and necessary, yes.
And have you been able to establish that this airline can function with the half of the employees that it currently has?
Well, this is actually the whole, what they call the BP, the business plan, okay, would serve exactly that purpose. How do we reduce significantly the amount of people working with the airline? How do we reduce costs? Because I was told, and we have guidelines, because what we did as government is that we ordered an audit. Okay, we had a company in France audit the company for us, and they outlined clearly where the company went wrong and how we can save large sum of money so that we give an opportunity to go back into the business. We can be more profitable because certain restructuring process will definitely be engaged. And I want to say that I'm pleased with what is happening thus far. Firstly, I trust God. So when others are just really sharpening their teeth to take over, the great God of the universe step in and say, let's give this country, this collectivity, additional opportunity to prove that they really was on the right path with the whole management of the airport. So God answer my prayers, answer the prayers of all those wonderful persons who in the community are praying and hoping that it becomes in the future a very successful company. So I'm grateful, very grateful for that and the support that we are getting. And well, the politicians are making their case known because, of course, the next 13 months, as you indicated in the beginning, the next 13 months you'll be faced with elections. So whatever they believe can be used as an argument to try to discredit the ruling majority, they would eventually put those arguments on the table. But are you mean optimistic that we can make it work?
I'm sure that I know that the people of St. Martin don't care who get it done as long as it's done right now, because it's the interest of St. Martin.
That's a very interesting argument that you put on the table there. And I wish that the two opposition leaders would understand what you're saying. Okay. That's what makes sense. To me, that's the bottom line. And if you look at my track record from days back to Albert Fleming days in the government as a commune at the time, we had our opposition. I mean, we were opposition to him. But whenever there was a measure that we sensed were in the general interest of the country, we didn't hesitate, and we would automatically join in and say, let's do this together because the country on a whole stand to benefit from this measure. Okay, but all we have systematically since 2023 coming from the two opposition leaders, all we got from them is bashing. We never hear a concrete proposal as to how we could go about managing this airline in a very responsible manner that would preserve our investment and keep the company flying. We didn't get that from them. Just useless criticism all hours of the day, and to me that's very regretful and even disgusting.
Mr. Chavez said just last week, he said your style is very dictatorial. You came from the opposition, he said. Now you treat the opposition like they're nothing. And that is that...
Let me put it this way. I've been there sitting in the opposition bench, yes, for 15 or even more years. So I know what it is to sit in the opposition bench. It's only now that, not Salvi much, but the former president, he understands what the rules and the House rules are, because he was under the impression that whatever he dictates is what has to carry out. I was very limited in time to speak on the floor whenever there's a burning issue tabled. And what I just try to remind him is not because, you're saying you're the leader of opposition, that means you can speak all day. Okay? And that's when something you say, come on, there are house rules. Okay? You only have so much minutes to highlight your point, make your case known, but he just would like to go on because he feel that by going on and talking extra amount of minutes, it will allow him to be convincing, especially because the aim of the strategy is to try to say they could weaken some members from the ruling majority. So you would hear some argument that they'll want to prolong for so at a given moment, even my majority members will say, please, what is happening here? How is it that you're allowing this man to speak so long, or even both of them to speak so long on the floor, uselessly, because we have heard these arguments before. So it's just like a sort of redundant, so they will ask me kindly to cut them off and let's move on, because we're here to deal with some agenda points, and we are not going to stay all day or all night on the same points where the opposition is just repeating themselves consistently in order to gain hope, with the hope that they will gain attention of the ruling majority or even a listening audience.
So now that the courts are given 6 months for air Antilles, and that's what, the 2nd of August, somewhere there.
Well, 6 months from now, I didn't check when it's going to be, but what I've already engaged is some meaningful dialogue with people who are very serious about and who have knowledge in aviation field and
they're going to come up with 15 million euros.
Yes. So we're looking at the regional council, and I hope by not a Friday afternoon to have a video conference with both presidents, with the hope that together they would at least come up with 5 million euros. And then we got 2 other investors who want to also be part of the whole investment process. So that would I want to remain very optimistic that by now, the next 2 weeks, we will have a clear plan of action that we could submit to court and say, we are ready to go. Mostly, we got to convince the president of the court, but also we have to convince the civil aviation authorities in Paris, because they are the one who grounded the planes at this stage. Okay, for different reasons. And most importantly, they're saying that there's insufficient fund to carry on the operation at this present point in time. So when you could present them a file where there's 15 million euros secured, automatically they will reinstall the permanent license that we have enjoyed for the first 2 years of our operation. So again, I keep praying and I keep working hard to make sure that we get the attention of the proper authorities in Paris to permit us to fly again and to carry out the plan of action that I am strongly defending.
You know, you're the president of the collectivity of St. Martin.
That's correct.
We were part of Guadeloupe at one time.
Sure.
Today you have an airline that employ more people in Guadeloupe than in St. Martin.
Yes.
Why can't the government of Guadeloupe put up
that's the point, and I'm pleased with the line of questioning. I met with them on 3 consecutive times to discuss exactly what you're saying. And they themselves say, but hey, that's true, it is time enough now that we who have 95% of the staff of the company based in Guadeloupe, we have to do more. But the sad reality is that it stays at the level of lip service. In other words, they would use those. As a matter of fact, in the last discussion in Guadeloupe, we went as far as doing a press conference, a press release rather, signed by both of us, where they will commit themselves to put up 5 million euros. But again, lip service, you know. Now, then this last meeting is that the difference here with this last meeting coming up is that we will be discussing in the presence of one of the financier, another person who's bringing the cash, to say, are you on board or are you not on board? And like that, we will know that we'll have to seek other investment and let the department. But I wouldn't just say that in a meeting. The public in Guadeloupe will have to know that this is a 4th time that we are seeking this full support, the financial backing of the General Council and the Regional Council of Guadeloupe. So I intend to take it public if we don't get a proper response from them beyond the lip service. Because the lip service is not serving at this critical hour when we need to guarantee at the minimum 15 million euros.
And it also benefits the people in Guadeloupe too, because I know a lot of them travel to St. Martin for the nightlife. They love St. Martin nightlife.
You know it well.
They tell me that Martinique and Guadeloupe.
Sure.
So
go ahead, sorry.
No,
I'm in full agreement with you, and this is why a lot of Guadeloupe people would say we are not understanding our political leaders, because yes, we enjoy going to and the fact that there are 2 airlines, Air Antilles, Air Caraïbes, they benefit from a affordable price, ticket cost, and this is what they would like to see reinstated. So this is what I said. If we don't get a proper response in the financial support from the General Council and Regional Council, the next thing to do is to take the debate to the people and let the people put the pressure on them to say, no, I cannot treat this airline this way, or you have to make a financial contribution on our behalf, because we see where the benefits are. Like you said, they come frequently for the nightlife, they come frequently for the shopping too.
Right.
They still good bargaining deals that they enjoy when they are here visiting, and they want to keep coming, like I said, at an affordable price.
In case you just joined us, Amoji, speaking of our thing, my guest is the president of the collectivity of St. Martin, President Mussington, and we are speaking with him here. And speaking of our thing on YouTube, Facebook, and on Hot 99.9 FM radio station. And Mr. President, the opposition also claimed that the salary of the person who was running Air Antilles was at 40,000 euros a month. Is that correct? And if it is correct,
it's not an exact figure, but I could settle with him on the fact that yes, it was much too high, given the fact that the company was going through some financial difficulties right from the start, because there was a lot of outstanding bills that we had to take into account. It was not 40, it was 30,000 euros per month, and that was definitely, and that's when I took over because in the beginning, I was not the CEO. Okay, it's only 4 months ago that I became the president of the company, the board of directors, and I said immediately, this got to stop. When you look at the books, you realize this cannot work. So I said it to him in uncertain terms. We can make some adjustments here, to which he agreed. But like I said, we have a document, a report in our hands that we can make use of in a court of law where those who are responsible for, let's say, abusing the funds of the collectivity, we can press charges against them. But that's not our priority right now. Right. You want to make sure get a company up and running. So that argument, I could support it to a certain extent because, yes, indeed, the salary was outrageous and unacceptable. But you have to weigh in on how to replace him, how we're going about it. But now that the handwriting is on the walls, you have valuable reasons, and you have the full backing of certain persons who knows about the business to say he has to be removed. And the person who has taken over has the experience, has the full support of the government of France, the civil aviation authorities, and the people with whom we are having these negotiations to take over the company. So, like I said, for all these reasons I've just outlined allows me to say with relative ease that yes, there's a future for Air Antilles in the region.
All right. Another thing is the Bubble Tree property that was purchased, right? Your opposition again claimed that the company in Guadeloupe is purchasing the property, but there's some connection that I'm not too aware of.
Okay.
This particular company from Guadeloupe, right? That now St. Martin is a part of that whole organization that he mentioned. When they told you that why you don't set up your own, you said it was easier to go to Guadeloupe and join Guadeloupe in terms of this whole structure of purchasing properties for the collectivity of municipalities, what have you. Is that correct, or is it not correct, stated by your opposition?
Okay. Well, I know though that as opposition,
by the way, I didn't say it verbatim, so it was just.
I know, but what I want to note here very clearly, or very obvious, is that he could only come on radio and talk about what the ruling majority is doing, but at what moment he made an introduction into what his plan or what he would have done in these situations. Mm-hmm. You know, lots of criticism, okay, but then if you're going to knock down this house, give us a plan of action as to how you're going to rebuild. Because the people would still remain on the streets if there isn't a decent house where they, area to house them. I'm just arguing the point here that you have to be a little more constructive than that in your arguments, okay? Be critical, yes, at one point in time, but once you finish criticizing, now let's talk about constructing. And that's where you failed miserably to come up with a clear plan of action. Now, what we argued right from the start when we learned, and not just before going into office, about the Barberty situation, is that the government, the court in Bastille, condemned the sale from 1800s. Okay, so go way back. They are saying that there are more Barberty families all over the world, and they are heirs to the property as well. That's how it started out. So therefore, they're saying that the whole Barberty property in the French Quarter area must not only be for the Barberties on St. Martin, but all the Barberties wherever they are. So the court confiscated all the property, and then they nominated an administrator to manage the property. And his way of getting money was to say, put it on auction,
right.
Auction of the property. So I decided that, and what drew my attention in government is that the way how began the action of two important parcels is that he advertised the auction sale in the New York Times in New York. Okay, so which we say he was looking at the big investors over there and disregarding, because wisely someone from St. Martin over there who alerted us that this is what is taking place, but there was never there's 3 local newspapers that can advertise as well, but he did not choose that route purposely because he didn't want us to know about the action.
Who he?
The administrator, the person.
Who was in Guadeloupe?
And no, he's a French person in France, but appointed by the president of the court of Bastille in Guadeloupe, okay, to carry out the sale of the entire 200 hectare of land in that area and to their disposal.
So you found out about it, right?
Yes, and that's when we organized a protest march in Finchwater to say this cannot happen. And me as president, I made it clear. And then after that, I traveled to France. I went to meet with the administrator. I went to meet the minister of overseas department, the prime minister's office, and I said, this is not fair to the people of St. Martin. We need to make sure constitute what you call a land reserve, and I want to make sure that if this land is to be sold, it must be sold to the people of this land. Okay, and that's what we secured. Then the judge approved the idea, and that's when we come up to an agreement where we will purchase the entire property, the 200 hectares of land, to a tune of 38 million euros.
But you didn't have the 38 million euros.
No. So here's the thing: we are part of a structure that is in charge of securing property. We are a full member of that institution.
That's a Guadeloupe company.
That's a Guadeloupe company. But it's based in Guadeloupe, but now we are full member of it. Okay? As a matter of fact, I sit on the board of directors meeting, a month ago in Guadeloupe. They cannot. And this is why I don't know why he uselessly or foolishly keep arguing that it's a Guadeloupe company because they're going to purchase a portion for 13 million euros. Okay? What he doesn't know is that they're working for us by law. Okay? They can only sell that land back to the collectivity when we are ready to purchase it.
You're part of that whole
We are part of that organization. Okay. So that's why I say this is the irresponsible behavior of this gentleman who failed to understand. And the day of the discussion in council, I asked the general manager of the company to explain to the council what are the ramifications. So we have nothing to fear, in terms of seeing a situation unfold where they would sell it to somebody else whenever they choose.
But they have the
by law. Yeah. By law, they cannot do that.
But they have the deed for the property, right?
Well, the sale hasn't gone down as yet. We're hoping over the next 2 months that it will be purchased.
But they will have the deed.
They will have the deed tentatively, and we are paying them back monthly, okay, or annually. How should I say? 1 million euros for the next 10 years, okay? Which is acceptable next 10 years. If we as government, we cannot come up with 30 million over the next 10 years, then we're failing miserably, okay? Now, they're gonna put up 13 million. We have a bank loan secured of 18 million over the next 60 years. 18 million over the next 16 years, it's like paying $1 a day, something to that extent.
But what about the claim there that because you're now a member, the collectivity is a member, every citizen will have to pay X amount of euros annually?
The calculation is based on the size of the population.
Right.
Okay? So you pay a membership fee. Each commune of Guadeloupe who's part of this institution, it's not a company, it's more of an institution, governmental institution. You have to pay an annual fee. And our portion based on the population is 500,000 euros annually. But that's peanuts in comparison to what you can get the institution to do for you when it comes to surveying land and securing land and even purchasing properties to be sold. So if you don't have the funds to put into it immediately, you work with them. They have the expertise to secure, for example, who the owners, the whole family tree before you can purchase whatever property it is on our behalf. So these are some of the advantages of being part of that institution.
What about the claim where expropriation of property was granted and that power was granted to them?
No, they cannot do expropriation unless we as government approve the expropriation. Okay? And you would only expropriate a St. Martin family if there's general interest at stake. So for instance, you need...
But you're aware of that claim that they made? That was also made, that claim?
No, I would need more information on that to understand what is it that he's arguing. Okay? But what I'm saying here, they can discuss on our behalf with the landowners, but
they don't have that power. You have the power.
Yes, to tell them, we gave them a mandate as to what we want them to do. And they can't go on their own and start to do things without our consent.
Well, that's my interpretation of what was said, is that the collectivity grant this company now power to do just that, expropriate property from citizens on the French side.
What would be the purpose of doing such things? If we would just consider that, it is because there's a piece of property that we are interested in for a public project. That, in that case, yes. But simply just for the sake of saying, let's take this piece of land from
it's never done like that. But I think, but this particular company, the impression is that this company have the power now granted through you as president to do that. And I want to know if that's really the case.
That's not how it works. Okay. That's not how the system works. They cannot intervene on properties without our consent. We still, the manager of our territory, we decide on land issues.
All they do is this purchase
has to be with our full support, our full backing, and he knows that well. So why come on radio, on TV to argue uselessly these kind of things? But hey,
the people don't have to worry about that anymore.
No, they don't have, and I can say that boldly. They do not have to worry about that. It's unfounded. That institution works with the collectivity, have my support because they are bringing things to reality. So we can't secure the money immediately. Then they can do the purchasing for the collectivity. That's how it works. So we sign an agreement. So everything is black and white. And that's this whole 13 million that they're gonna put forward, and we take a deliberation when I was in Guadeloupe not too long ago to approve the 13 million that they would pay to the administrator whenever we when we're ready to deal with that situation, which should happen in the next 2 months. So we got 18 million from the banking institution in Guadeloupe, 13 million from them, and another 7 million. Because we cannot, as government with so much investment program going on, take up 38 million and say, okay, we're going to pay for the land. Okay? We need the land most urgently because you want to secure that for the future generations. Okay? And that's the whole policy. And it's difficult to understand why they rejected that, why they turned it down.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to make sure that the generations to come will have areas where they can build their family home, or if there was any major investment program that they want to come up with as new government. Because I would like to be there for the next 5 years. But beyond that, there's the 20 hectares of land that they will have to decide future government, how this land is going to be used and for what purpose.
So the name of the company from Guadeloupe is?
It's EPF, Établissement Public Foncier. In other words, it's a public institution that deals with land issues. Okay, and they support the different communes and purchase property for them. You can go as far as building certain buildings in a commune's best interest.
So Simran is the only party outside of Guadeloupe that is a part of this
this institution, yes.
But the other municipalities in
Guadeloupe. The board of directors, when you sit there, mostly around the table are mayors of the different communes of Guadeloupe. Okay, so no, it's an institution, like I said, that serves a purpose, and I was pleased to be part. Okay, let's get back to the argument where he said we should have created our own. Yes, law permits us to create our own, but you need funds. Because you don't want to create an institution that will remain there dormant because lack of funds to carry out certain investment program.
You saying it's urgent at the time, so you wanted it.
But if we didn't do that, you think if we had created the time to create our own, we would have been able to secure the 30 millions needed today? Because where the funds was going to come from to inject in that institution from the collectivity coffers?
So 2 months from now, that sale will take place?
Yes. Yes, or more, but we're hoping to have it settled within the next 2 months.
No, part of the land is being purchased by Saint-Samar. Is that correct?
Yes, 3 lots are purchased or will be purchased by the Saint-Samar company, yes.
You know, Saint-Samar was founded in St. Martin.
Saint-Samar is 51% owned by the collectivity.
Right.
So it's like us.
Yeah.
So it's like we are purchasing via that institution that is part of us. We're 51 majority shareholders in that company.
And you know, it's amazing because I had one of your vice president here, Mr. Alan Richardson.
But yes, he's the president of the Saint-Samar,
yes. He spoke about it, and I think it makes all St. Martiners proud of that particular company. But now I heard that they have financial problems. Is that true?
It seems, yes. And I want to, again, I'll still hopefully the president explain or outline what are the problems and how they're addressing that issue. But it's a fact that they're experiencing some financial difficulties as we speak. But again, I'll let Alain Richardson manage that with his whole team in office, some young technicians, most of them from Guadeloupe and from France, but I let them talk about what is happening at the Saint-Samar presently.
Well, you mentioned that and I said to Mr. Jules Charville, you know, the Dutch side have a similar problem. We were part of Nelson Antilles, but we just can't get away from Curacao, and it's like French St. Martin can't get away from Guadeloupe. What's the real problem? Your experience?
No, it's not that you can't get away, because as we speak, since 2007, when the whole change came, the political change came into effect, we became a collectivity, a separate status on our own. We were no longer going to the general, so from political perspective, we were no longer going to the general council, nor the regional council. But there were still some systems where you couldn't do it overnight, so you still allow the general council, for example, to manage certain services, social services for you and St. Martin, but the decisions, these administrative decisions was coming from their services in Guadeloupe managing for St. Martin. The same thing with the fire department in La Savane. It was managed out of Guadeloupe because we didn't have the means, not the technical skills to manage it on our own. But since I've gotten elected, I decided that this must change now. Because 17 years ago, if we still not in a position to manage our fire department and our social services on our own, then we were never prepared to do that. So what we did is that I went to Paris. I met the Ministry of Interior Affairs, because all this is supervised by the Ministry of Interior Affairs, and I get their consent and going through a process to take on the responsibility of managing our own fire department.
So it hasn't happened yet?
It has happened.
It happened already?
It's in place right now. As a matter of fact, what we in a recruitment process for new firemen, paid, now everything will be paid and managed by the collectivity of St. Martin.
Let me ask you, because I was told that the previous arrangement had that if you made a call to the fire department, it was Guadeloupe.
Yes, everything was going to Guadeloupe. That's in the process of being handled. In a sense, as a matter of fact, yesterday the commander of the center and the person that I have nominated to be the president of the board of directors, we had a meeting yesterday afternoon. And now we're in the stage of hiring presently, so new firefighters will be hired in the next two or 3 months and trained to become professional firefighters. And now that whole technical wing, where that service that you just mentioned, of when you place a phone call to say you need an ambulance or you need a fire truck in a particular area, you're going through Guadeloupe and somebody in Guadeloupe answering and telling you, you're throwing your back. So it was a backward and forward situation that could delay and could lead to have serious consequences, especially in an area when it comes to a person being sick or an accident.
So as we speak, that's...
not yet.
Okay.
But that's the process that is now being examined carefully for that transfer to St. Martin. So we're adding another building to the center in La Savane, and we will modernize that center with all the necessary equipment, okay, and all of the technology needed, that everything, and then you need a doctor, you need additional technicians. All the staff would be hired by the government of St. Martin to be managing that whole. So we are taking over the entire service. An interesting thing is that we no longer have to be making in the next 3 or 4 months, no longer making calls to Guadeloupe. And 2, we create employment for our young men, especially and women, some of them based in France, and are waiting an opportunity to come home to get a decent job and opportunity in the country of their birth. And that's the goal, with which I came into office. Whatever we can manage as an independent, not independent, but autonomous country, we're going to take it on, because that's what leadership supposed to be doing, making sure they manage their own affairs without having to go and beg somebody or wait till they see it feasible to make certain decisions in your best interest. So you got to step up to the plate and secure your own funds to pay for the services that you are going to manage. And that's my role, that's my mission in government today.
Do you care to explain to my audience the reason questioning of you as president of the collective in terms of misappropriation of funds or what have you?
Okay, yes. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, because here's the thing. The gendarme and adjutant chef came to my office one afternoon with a convocation, and they were telling me that he come to notify me that I will be held for questioning at a particular date at the gendarmerie, and I'll be there for the whole day, because this is the orders of the prosecutor. So I said, what this is about? Then he said, well, when they get there, we will go into details on what's taking place. Why we question you? When I did get there, he told me, okay, you'll be here you're in detention, you'll be here for the whole day, you'll be sitting around in this office.
You had your lawyer with you?
With my lawyer, of course. I traveled with my lawyer. He said this could have gone the other way, where we could have came and get you, we could have shackled you while you was in here, or we could even throw you in a cell if there was a need to do that, or even have you stayed overnight. But he said, given the situation, that all that isn't necessary. Okay, so you're going to just sit here to the day with me, and we're going to have these sort of questions that he was posed to me all day long. Okay, we had 2 hours break. My lawyer left and went to eat, and then they came back and we continued the discussion. When I got there, the first thing he said is that the reason why there's this inquiry on is because a letter came from 4 opposition members: Daniel Gibbs, Alain Godezormeaux, Philippe Philidor, and Madame Dominique Renfort. These are the 4 persons who sent a letter to the prosecutor outlining that there's misappropriation of funds because I hired family members, I hired people from my team that I had to remove from my list back in 2022 to be able to accommodate some members from the alternative group of Valérie Damaso. We do a joint list, second round. And so the persons who didn't get elected, after that they postulated on different positions in the collectivity, vacancies that were made available. So they got elected, 4 of them got a job then, to secure a job, but now they want to know, question to find out if I purposely had an agreement to remove them from the team to be able to accommodate the opposition, the other candidates from the other team merge into one alliance, and if that the compensation that I deliberately offer them a job opportunity. I said, let's be clear on this. Every opportunity that was made available was published by the collectivity, and that's law, and whoever's interested in that vacancy could apply by making the candidacy known on a political platform, well, the government platform. They did that, and then they were called in, they were auditioned, and they and others were auditioned, and then a jury approved their candidacy, and automatically that contract was signed. So the opposition wanted to accuse me that it was a deal, and that's where the prosecutor came into it to examine the whole thing. So I proved that with my lawyer that it's not because legal procedures were followed and were respected. Now they also questioned the fact that my son was hired. Yes, I assumed that my son was hired. Now they are arguing that by law, family members should not be hired in the collectivity. That's what they argue. But my lawyer said they'll have to be demonstrated, and if need be in a court of law, but other than that, he's not going to accept that accusation has been made because he's just a citizen like any other citizen. Then some people who were working before, but just because they carry the name Mussington, they question me on that too. They report on why this one is in, why that one, and looking to see if they have a significant increase in salary for the time that they've been working in the collectivity, to see if I give them any particular advantages from a financial perspective. So when you look at all that with the lawyer, you'll realize that there was no anything to condemn me on. But to the past, at 6 o'clock, he said, listen, my line of questioning is over. I'll call the prosecutor and see what she wants to do. So the prosecutor called back and they had a short meeting, 5-10 minutes. Then he came and said that they're lifting the detention. You're free to go home. And if anything in the future, the investigation will continue. And if anything, they'll call me back. That's how it ended. But the whole thing was triggered based on the fact that opposition members who, again, seeking all means to discredit me, they're into character assassination. That's one of their approach, in the hope that it could trigger a reaction from the general population to say, this is the man we can trust. But I just want to make it clear to you all, and to the listening audience. I came from a very poor family, but poor in financial means, but very rich in terms of values, okay? Moral values and principles. And from early we were taught by our mother in particular not to touch what doesn't belong to you. So I grew up with that. So I'm saying here today that they will search everywhere. They'll never find me involved in no kind of embezzlement of public funds. That cannot happen on my watch because I grew up with those moral principles and values. You work for what you want. And that's the only way you're going to own something, because you work hard for it. Okay, but not that because you're in office now and you're going to see how you could secure funds for yourself. That level of corruption does not apply to me. So I have a clear conscience. That's why I told the adjutant before leaving his office, contact me at any given moment. I'll make myself available to discuss this whole issue, because I'm walking out here a free man with a free conscience and a free understanding that you cannot indulge in any form of political corruption. So money laundering or money embezzlement of funds does not apply to Louis Mussington. And that's the joy that I'm enjoying today, despite what they're trying to do. But again, electoral purposes, we said that earlier on, we have elections in the next 13 months. So whatever tactics that they feel will be most viable or that they can put into place, the mudslinging, the scandals that they've tried to create, all of it will fall down at a given moment, because I trust a great God and I work with him. And he helps me. He paved the way for me to be president today, and I trust in him to help me to remain focused on what is necessary to improve the living condition of our people. And let me just move on to another topic. Just the other day, some questioned it. What was the purpose? I went to the prison in Bastille. The sad reality today, is that we have 80 young men in one prison. We have another 20 in another prison.
From St. Martin?
All young St. Martiners.
So that's 100 basically.
Looking at that base. For a population of 32 million, that is official. Okay, official figure from the LINSEE, the Statistic Institute. It's a young. Guadeloupe has a population of 400,000. Okay? And we control 60 to 7% of the inmates in the prisons in Bastille, Guadeloupe.
Come from St. Martin.
Coming from St. Martin. Those are the situations that have me bothered. Wow. That's why I tell it to the state, I tell it to, all the ministers that you all help me combat the crime situation in my country. And the sad reality today, Oral, is that before time young St. Martiners going after Guadeloupe prison, it was like 5 months, a year. Now it's 3 years, 7 years. Wow. Yes, the long-term sentences have me concerned That's why I was in Sandy Ground 2 nights ago, where I draw their attention first to another unacceptable situation as far as the crime rate is concerned. It's unacceptable that we'll have young men firing shot at tourists in this country. Yes, a tourist, the bullet passed, according to the estimation of the gendarmes, 11 centimeters away from the brain of an American tourist. Had he been shot, that would have spelled disaster, not just for one side of the island, but the entire island. And it's my role to say it, because I know how Donald Trump is thinking. I don't know where you stand in regards to that, but I know he would have ordered all flights into St. Martin banned, okay, if it was clearly reported that American tourists were shot in St. Martin. So it's our duty, and I'll give you the sorry, it's the flow, but it was our duty and responsibility to protect the tourists coming to this island, because it's part of tourism is our main pillar in terms from an economic perspective. So we cannot afford to have situations of this nature, unfolding in our country. So we got a political and a community responsibility to protect those visitors coming to the island who are providing the means for us to survive as a country.
I brought that up to Mr. Charvel also when he was here last week. And I said, this situation in Sandy Ground cannot continue.
Yes.
We are killing ourselves. We have young men there with enormous amount of problems. They can't find a job. The situation is getting really, really bad. What you as president of the collectivity can do, because a lot of people feel like these young people have been neglected for years.
Okay.
And now we are going to wait until the next person is killed, whether it's American tourists or local person. It shouldn't happen.
Okay, here's I have a few things I'm looking at. As a matter of fact, I spoke to the PIRFA about it. In the next in coming weeks, I'm calling a round-table conference with the different authorities, because you have to go back to basics. Most of those men, when you discuss with them, what can you do? Just give me a job. But to do what? Okay? No, they can't, because they don't have no background in academic achievement. The high school dropouts for many of them. So we're going to create an institution. As a matter of fact, we are going to do a presentation of the plan. Training. When I start talking about an institution, it's a training center over there in, where the Swaliga secondary. On your way to Secret Hotel over Alliance Marcel. There was a secondary high school there that was closed down after the disaster, Irma disaster.
Right.
So we're going to take portion of it, rehabilitate it, and then create a center out of it where they could be learning to be plumbers, to be mechanics in different trades, to repair solar panel. This gonna come into effect sometime next year. 27, we'll have it inaugurated. And all youngsters, those coming out of prison, or those on the island, on the block, we're gonna get them out of the block and introduce them to these institutions. But in the meantime, there are other training institutions that exist. Then there's an institution called Mission Locale, where youngsters can go register to get their license, to get all their because some of them get too on the block, whether it's French Quarter, down to Standing Ground, and don't even have a passport, they don't even have an ID. So you'll have them get an ID, you'll have them get on a social system where they could have at least 400 to 500 euros per month to take care of their needs. But they got to apply. What I'm going to do, I'm going to hire 5 or 6 street workers who will be supporting them and accompanying them to the different institutions where they can be provided for. But they got to want to do that, because some of them are comfortable on the block as well. Let's call a spade. Comfortable on the block because they could just sell their weed and just do nothing and spend the whole day relaxing, popping their bikes. So you want to get them out of that mindset and get them into something more constructive for their future. But that's why you have these street workers who are going to be in the next 2 months on the scene working with them. But first and foremost, they too must tell themselves, I'm not going down that route anymore. Those in Bastille prison, like how some of them say. So I asked a bold question. What is the plan when you get out? To come back here 6 months later, or to try to do something meaningful with your life? How many of you are married? How many of you have children? These are some of the questions I was posing to them to see from a social perspective what lifestyle they're ready for. Okay, you get some positive, but you get somewhere, you just feel that, yes, you said it correctly, there's no hope, they feel lost. So it's my duty as president to offer them a second opportunity. But they too must be willing. There's a lot of situations going on in some certain neighborhoods where, okay, a single mother, a young person, will raise them up. She herself still was very young, so not having the understanding at what her role supposed to be as a mother. You know, well, we know what our society is all about. Many of the fathers have abandoned. They're just biological fathers, so they abandoned, so left the mother, the young mother, to fend for herself, you know, and then so some of them would get certain social benefits, but they will spend that money on other things other than the priority. So we'll have these kind of social issues that, as president, I cannot neglect. But it's not overnight that I can fix them all. So you still have to carry out an investment program. You still have to go into France to make sure you talk to the authorities over there on certain subsidies. And a clear plan of action is that we need to create housing, a new housing program for our country. We did the paperwork. Now you want to make sure that we could secure the funds. As a budget that is limited, so you got to see how much the French government or Europe is willing to assist you with your housing program.
Understand you have over 3,000 persons waiting for housing?
Waiting for housing. Okay? And yet you want to answer that call because it's urgent and it could curtail the level of delinquency in the country, because if a family is well established from a housing perspective or standpoint, then it could be a different atmosphere in that home. You know, the young ones got their room and all the facilities needed in that home. It could trigger a different mindset, you know. But if there's nobody working and plus they living in a shack, you know, it cannot. Yes.
Did you, when you meet with them, say, look, guys, if there's a situation again in the future, don't just take to the streets, burning tires, burning cars. Give me a call. Let me, as president, deal with the situation. Give me a day or two, and if you're not satisfied, then you can do it. But don't just take to the street.
Yes, yes. Well, I appreciate that comment. Well, and as a matter of fact, what was interesting is that the night of the discussion in Sandy Young on it, there's two young persons who took the mic to say, hey, whenever we burn the garbage bin, it's collective. This is we taxpayers who have to pay for it. Whenever we damage the road or whatever damage is done, let's say to public infrastructure, taxpayers' money have to pay for it. In other words, we as government have to do that. So the lesser damage we could do, it will permit the government to have the means to do other things in our best interest, like continue to improve the infrastructure, especially the sport infrastructure in the country. And that too was echoed very forcefully and very convincingly by other persons who took the floor. And I was very pleased with a few mothers who came and made that appeal. Boys, behave by yourself, have a different approach, work with the government because they're open to work with you, you know. And especially a young man who said, don't do that. Let's have a dialogue with the government, just like what you just clearly stated. Go talk to the government. The president is telling us that his doors are always open for dialogue, for discussion. Let's make use of those opportunities. But they got some of them too, a few of them, and I keep saying they are decent people in Sandy Young. There's a few bad elements who have one concern, and that is to disturb the peace in Sandy Young. You know, and that's very unfortunate. And there are those who tell me they're prepared to meet with me so that we could go back in the different neighborhoods and keep talking to the younger ones, because some of them are so caught up in their little business, their little pushing business, that they're not hearing, and when there's a situation, they'll drop what they're doing because they're available, and they will go and join in and block the streets.
So French Quarter and Sandy Ground are two hot areas?
Well, listen, there are different hot areas, and I don't so like the idea of there's hot areas. That's why I'm, after Sandy Ground, I'll be moving into the district of St. James. As a matter of fact, Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, there will be a district meeting in St. James where I'm talking to the young people. Adults as well could come along and let's talk about the improvement that are needed in that neighborhood. Same then after that, I'll be moving to other districts. I hope to carry out that program by now to the end of March, because every week you want to be in a different district, talking to your people and seeing, besides what we are doing in terms of investment in the sport and cultural area. Right now we have a €12 million plan to build a new cultural center in Sandy Ground. The sport complex that we know of going to take a little more time because we're looking at €30 million investment. But what we have done so far is that we put light on the field in Sandy Ground, where they can play, use the field, and with the lighting facilities involved, they can, make use of the running track. And then there's a whole area where they can do like a physical exercises. Yeah. There are different machines that they could make full use of. And then there's a 3 or 4 tennis court that they could play tennis if they wish to do so, while we're waiting on the construction of the new building, we have a 500-seater hall that is a part of the whole investment project, and then additional areas where they can play. They can have a game room, there's a computer room, there's a little mini library. So different activities will be taking place, dancing and theater. So you're creating that ambiance where they can be away from home, but in a center where they could be building their brain power. And the same thing with up in the Spring Concordia, we have a €12 million the whole reconstruction of the what we call the Mediatek. Yeah. And that's a building in itself that is so outstanding in a sense that there too, but on a larger scale, there could be theater, there could be how should I say, a library, there's dancing area,
When is that going to be completed?
That's going to be completed by the end of the year, yes. Okay. So when I learn and I see the tape, there's no investment, I like, somebody's walking on their head. That was my comment here, and I take the responsibility to say that. And that says, you're seeing the program. Let's go to the La Savane, €44 million for a state-of-the-art junior high school, all supported by our budget. Okay? And then we do the same thing in Finch Quarter, €24 million. You know what the prefect said? He's astonished to see how a collectivity, like ours, could manage to carry out those 2 major investments. This doesn't happen in France. With
unlimited funds, right?
Limited funds. This doesn't happen in France. 1 per year, or 1 per period. Yeah. We managed to carry out both construction and simultaneously. Okay, and then when you look in the area, there's another 24 million because you had to do some public work on the road infrastructure to get into the college, this junior high school, and to get out in the area lower down next to the fire department. So all these some accommodations and the sewage and all the different facilities had to be introduced. We had to purchase land. Okay, so that another project in itself cost the collectivity €24 million. So when I learned that the fire department, we renovated that building, €2-3 million. So I like, somebody is walking on their head. I keep repeating myself on that. Every district in this country has street lights. €5 million was spent, okay, last year only. The road network, we resurfaced many of the roads. There's still 1 or 2 roads that still have to be resurfaced, especially St. James Road, and my people are complaining, hey, this is your district, what are you doing? So all I'd say to them, let not your heart be troubled. We're getting to that as well.
So what's the arrangement? Previously, I understand that the national roads were taken care of by the
state. That was before 2007.
Okay.
before now that we enter this new administrative or political setup where we assume a larger form of political autonomy that they want to reinforce by requesting a modification of the organic law. There's no road that belongs to the state or the general council. Before time, we had the commune. This is commune road. That road is national road, the state road. No. All the road, the whole entire road network is the responsibility of the government of St. Martin.
So they blame you if the roads are not paved?
Yes, they can do that. But then assume my responsibility. Right now, all that has been paved will now they'll be marked. That process, you have to bring a company from Guadeloupe who's going to carry out that. It's begun the process, and you'll see in the next couple of weeks brand new roads. And the roads have been paved now, but now the marking will be phase 2. You know, and that too, 5 million euros.
You know,
so I'm like, what is going on? Who's really walking on their head? I must repeat that because the handwriting is on the wall. It's obvious to see what is going on. But again, like we said earlier, I said earlier, for political reasons, they try to just do their mudslinging, make it look like nothing is happening. But the good thing, is that the common citizen who is calling me and every day and you're showing me, Lee, let not your heart be troubled, we are putting you back. And that is disturbing to them because they're hoping that with the useless propaganda that they are making daily, that it would trigger the reaction where citizens would want to say, no, let's give somebody else a chance.
Before I go, I have to ask you what I asked Charville. All right? You two guys came through the struggle for years, and what are you disappointed or not disappointed in Charville? Because he said he's very disappointed in you, and I want to ask you the same question.
Well, I have no reason to be disappointed or not disappointed in Gilles Charville. Well, the other thing that I find most regretful is that he did not rise to the occasion where he would be a politician with a certain understanding as to how things function. He still behaved like a kindergarten student, and when it comes to political issues, he really short-sighted and low-minded. Really, I must say that out front because that's the reality. He never have a construction proposal to bring on the table, and he just engaged in useless propaganda that will not get him into office. And I must say this too, he's mad because he felt that the people should have chosen him to be the president of the collectivity instead of me. And that is haunting him. That's his nightmare, since 2022, and he wouldn't stop now.
Well, Mr. President, I want to thank you for coming in. Anything else you want to add?
Well, I'm pleased that you're giving me this opportunity to be here. And I want to say, and I'd like to say this publicly, I trust a great God who is working with me. And I thank all the pastors and all the community-minded people who are praying for me, and they keep reminding me, not to worry, we have you in our prayers. So that's my strength. And based on that, I am moving on successfully, and I give God all the thanks and the praise.
Well, I look at my clock and I say, well, you got like 3 minutes less than Charville last time. That's okay. But at least you all got almost similar time.
Similar time. All right, I thank you so much. And just know that we are trying our best as government to do what we think would serve the country's purpose. But beginning of the school year, because somebody echoed that we have to empower our young people, educate them properly. I'm engaged in a process with the rector, which is the head of the educational department in Guadeloupe, where I'm bringing in the University of Guadeloupe to house certain programs. In other words, students who are going after school annually to whether Guadeloupe, Martinique, or France, those who want to stay home would have that possibility of educating themselves at least for another 2 years on St. Martin. We are looking also at the Nursing Institute, where we are going to train our nurses on St. Martin as well. So the next 3-4 years from now, we'll have nurses from St. Martin, trained on St. Martin and involved in a different health institution in the country. In addition to that, I am also making sure that the training centers, because there are some issues where some were paid and some were not paid, all training centers are paid on time, and that they can also take on a new program of training programs for our young people, whether it's in the hotel industry or whether it's in other business sector. Yes, that is also part of the program that we are working on presently. So we have a clear plan of action cut out for us, and I cannot be derailed by those who are just spreading useless propaganda. So I don't pay attention to what they're saying about me, because my focus is so important on making sure, again, improve the living conditions of our people, making sure that we take measures with the prefecture, the state. And as a matter of fact, I want to get a religious leader. In the next 3 weeks from now, I'm having around 2 roundtable conference imposed. The second one would be with the religious community to see what it can have a greater impact on curtailing the level of violence in this country. So I'll be meeting with them also at a collectivity to talk about, from a moral and spiritual perspective, how they can make an impact on curtailing the level of violence.
Well, Mr. President, I want to thank you. I wish you much success.
Pleasure has been mine. Right. And call me anytime, or I'll call you in another few months to come back on your talk show to express my views and my concerns for the developing program that we have in store for this country that I love so much. I really wouldn't even imagine. I mean, you know of me because we go way, way back coming on your talk show, what, 30 years now ago?
More than that,
more than 30
years.
Over 40 years, you know, and I haven't changed one bit as I'm concerned, because I love this country, and whatever I can do to help this country advance, count on me to do just that.
All right, good. Again, thanks. Much success.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's President Mussington. That's it for now. And speaking about other things, I'll see you next time on YouTube, Facebook, and on Hot 99.9 FM radio. Take care. Bye.